On the morning of September 11th, 2001, America changed. In New York City, 2 towers fell. In Arlington, the Pentagon burned. Over Pennsylvania, a plane went down in a quiet field after ordinary people did something extraordinary. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost, and the echo of that day has never fully faded. Time moved on. The skyline rose again. Memorials took the place of ruin. But some who passed through these places, Lower Manhattan, Shanksville, say the air still holds a different kind of quiet, a hush that settles in your chest, a feeling of being watched when no one is there. These are rumors, not records. Stories told in low voices, posted in late-night threads, passed along by people who swear they saw something. Believe them or don't, but listen closely. This is FogTales. This happened about 3 or 4 years ago. A woman in her early 30s named Alicia had just started a new job at the FreedomTower. Her office was on one of the higher floors, between 93 and 99. One night after work, she went to Queens to have dinner with some friends. They hadn't seen each other in a long time, so the conversation kept going, and before she knew it, it was almost midnight. That's when Alicia remembered she'd left her laptop at the office. The thing was heavy, and with a long holiday coming up, she didn't want to leave it behind. She went back to the building and found a security guard in the lobby. He told her it was after hours and no one was supposed to go up. She explained how important it was, almost begging him. Finally, he agreed, but said he had to come with her, just to follow protocol. She thanked him and apologized for the trouble. The elevator shot up quickly, as it always did. When they stepped out onto her floor, everything was dark. The guard radioed the control room, asking them to turn on a few lights. Alicia walked alongside him, heading toward her small cubicle. She remembered she'd left her laptop bag leaning against the back wall. Even with the lights on, the bag was hard to see. It was black, blending into the shadows. She squinted, trying to make it out. That's when she felt it. A low vibration in the floor, like distant thunder. For a second, she thought maybe it was the cocktails from dinner making her dizzy. Then, suddenly, a bright glare filled the space around her. She spotted her bag clearly and bent down to grab it.
"Thanks for the flashlight,"
she said to the guard, relieved. But when she turned back, the guard wasn't holding a flashlight. He wasn't even looking at her. He was frozen, staring wide-eyed at the glass wall. His face had gone pale. Alicia followed his gaze, and in that instant, just a split second, she saw the reflection of a jet, massive and dark, bearing down on the tower. The nose of the plane cut through the night sky, the blinking lights on its wings flashing red and white. She could even see the faint markings on the fuselage, blurred by speed but unmistakably real. It wasn't a blur or a trick of the eye. It was as solid and detailed as any plane she'd ever seen. Her stomach dropped. Her body locked up. She couldn't even breathe. And then, as the plane should have struck, it vanished. No explosion, no shattering glass. Just silence. The vision was gone, leaving only their reflections in the glass. Alicia turned to the guard, and he turned to her at the same time. His lips trembled, but he said nothing. Neither of them did. It had all lasted less than a heartbeat, but it left a weight that neither could shake. September 11th, 2001. In the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, in a quiet field outside the town of Shanksville, the earth shook as United Airlines Flight 93 came crashing down. The impact tore open a crater, sending fire roaring into the sky. 44 souls were lost. Ordinary men and women who, in their last desperate minutes, rose up against the hijackers. They forced the plane down, sparing countless lives in Washington, D.C., but condemning themselves to die in that lonely field. When the smoke cleared, the site became sacred ground, fenced off, guarded around the clock. A trailer was placed near the crater, and security officers were hired to watch over the wreckage. They were men used to late nights, to boredom, to danger. But almost immediately they began to realize they weren't alone. It started with the trailer. One cold night, after sweeping the area and finding nothing unusual, 2 guards decided to pass the time with a game of cards inside. They poured coffee, shuffled the deck, and just as they sat down, the sound came from the door. Both men froze. They opened it wide. No one was there. The field stretched out empty beneath the pale moonlight. They searched, checked every corner of the trailer's shadow, but there were no footprints in the snow, no intruder, no reason for the knock at all. Uneasy, they returned inside. They set their cups down, ready to continue their game. But then, they saw a chair had been pulled out and placed neatly at the table. Neither of them had touched it. Neither of them had even unfolded it. Yet there it was, waiting, as though an unseen guest had joined their game. They tried to shake it off, tried to pretend it didn't matter. The cards were dealt. Silence fell heavy. And then, voices. Muffled, indistinct, like a group of people speaking just outside the trailer. Dozens of them. Too many to ignore. The guards bolted outside into the snow. The voices stopped instantly. The air was still. The field was empty. And the snow around the trailer remained perfect, untouched, without a single footprint. From then on, the guards rarely stayed long inside the trailer. Some refused to enter it at all, preferring to sit at the main gate in their cars. But even there, the dead would not leave them alone. One night around 3 a.m., a guard leaned back in his cougar, working a crossword to fight off exhaustion. His eyelids sagged, his head dipped, and in that quiet moment, a man's voice whispered beside him, so close it might as well have been in the passenger seat. "So, now what?" The guard's eyes shot open. His skin went cold. He spun his head. The seat beside him was empty. Another time, after a storm had passed, the same guard felt his car suddenly sink at the back, like someone heavy had climbed onto the trunk. He rushed outside, scanning the wet ground for tracks. Nothing. No scuff marks, no prints in the mud, no sign of any weight at all. And then, with a creak of metal, the car lifted again, like whatever had been perched on it had slipped away into the darkness. But the most chilling moment of all came under a silver moon. At around 4 a.m., the guard looked toward the crash site and froze. A woman was walking toward him. Her form was as solid as any living person. Light brown hair, blue jeans, a blue baseball jersey, glasses glinting in the moonlight. She walked slowly, calmly, as if she belonged there. She had no coat, though the night was bitterly cold. The guard stared, breath shallow, waiting for her to reach the gate. And then, she was gone. Not faded, not blurred. One instant she was there, the next, nothing. Later, when he saw the photos of Flight 93's passengers, his stomach dropped. There she was, the same woman, one of the dead. To this day, many believe the field in Shanksville is not empty, that the passengers who fought back linger still, their spirits patrolling the earth where they fell. Some whisper that they are protecting the living, driving away the shadows of the terrorists who perished with them. Others say the entire site is cursed, a place where the dead, heroes and villains alike, remain restless. What cannot be denied is this: the men who were hired to guard that land, men who prided themselves on never flinching, left with stories that haunt them still. In the days after September 11, 2001, the heart of New York City fell silent. Where the World Trade Center once stood, two towers that touched the sky, there was nothing but a graveyard of twisted steel and endless ash. Ground Zero was not a place of noise anymore. It was a place of stillness, a place of dust, smoke, and memories too heavy for words. Those who walked there, whether police, firefighters, or rescue workers, all described the same thing: the silence. A silence so deep it swallowed even the sound of your own footsteps. Now and then, a girder groaned or rubble shifted somewhere in the piles, but mostly, it was quiet. A kind of quiet that weighed on your chest and made you feel like the world itself was holding its breath. One night, a police officer was walking the perimeter of the wreckage. His flashlight beam cut through the dust, catching fragments of glass, bent rebar, and the outlines of staircases that now led nowhere. And then, cutting through that silence, came a sound that should not have been possible. The officer froze. It was the clear mechanical chime of an elevator bell, but there were no elevators anymore. Every shaft was ruined, filled with debris, choked with ash. The towers were gone. And yet the sound was unmistakable. Before he could even process what he'd heard, another sound followed, the metallic scrape of doors sliding open. His heart began to pound. His mind raced for explanations. Echoes, machinery still buried and shifting, but it was too sharp, too real. He turned and walked toward it. Each step crunched over glass and grit, his beam trembling slightly as he scanned the shadows. The closer he came, the more the silence seemed to close in, wrapping tight around him. Finally, he reached the ragged edge of an elevator shaft, just a hollow throat of twisted metal plunging into blackness. And there, standing in front of it, was a man. He looked to be in his mid-40s. His suit was gray, streaked with soot. His tie hung loose around his neck. His face was calm, unnervingly calm, as if he'd just stepped out of a normal workday. The officer's breath caught. The man met his eyes and spoke, his voice steady, almost casual.
"Is it over yet?"
For a second, the officer couldn't move, couldn't speak. The world tilted. And then, as quickly as he had appeared, the man was gone. No footsteps, no sound, no fade. One moment he was there, the next, nothing. Just the shaft, just the silence pressing down harder than before. It wasn't until later, when the officer finally told the story, that he admitted his brain hadn't even had time to fully process what he was seeing before the figure vanished. It was as if that man had only been allowed a brief moment to ask his question, and then he was pulled away again, back into whatever lies beyond. Witnesses at Ground Zero spoke often of strange feelings, of presences, of whispers in the dust. But this story stands out because of its simplicity. There was no scream, no horror, just a man covered in ash, asking the only question that he must have been asking in his last moment. We told 3 stories carried on the quiet: a phantom reflection high above the city, voices over the frozen field in Pennsylvania, and a man of ash asking the only question anyone could ask in a moment like that. Maybe they're tricks of memory, stress, grief, explanations that make sense in daylight. Or maybe, in the spaces tragedy leaves behind, something lingers long enough to be noticed. We don't claim answers. We don't claim proof. We share what's whispered, carefully, respectfully, so the past is remembered and the mysteries are left to their quiet. If you have a story of your own, something you've heard, something you felt, share it in the comments with care for the people who were lost and the ones who still miss them. Subscribe for more chilling stories, folktales, and urban legends from around the world.